Alright guys, how's it going? Today we're going to be looking at a compact camera, something a little bit different from what I'm usually doing, but something that I think is really interesting to take a look at. It's a G series camera, and it's a camera that I think is good for professionals, is good for people who are just starting out in photography and want to kind of test the water in terms of manual photography and videography, and somebody who's interested in getting a little bit more out of their compact camera rather than just having a machine that kind of runs itself. So the camera that we'll be taking a look at is the Canon G5X. Now, this is a sweet compact camera. It reminds me a lot of the G16 and the G16, G12, that kind of camera, because it looks and feels a lot more like a manual camera. We'll get into a couple of the features in a second, but I just wanted to start by saying that this is a great camera. If I was going to go out and purchase a compact camera, that this is where I would be looking. It's got so many features, it's so up to date in terms of its technology, and I think that's what makes it such a versatile and usable camera. So yeah, let's jump in. Let's take a look at some of the statistics of this camera, and then we can go and talk about some of the features and how you can apply those into photography or videography that you might be doing. So looking at this camera from a statistical point of view, it's an amazing piece of technology. It's so tiny, but it packs such a punch. This camera's rocking a 1-inch sensor that's shooting at about 20 megapixels. It's also got a Digic 6 processor, which is the same as a 7D Mark II, which is significantly more expensive than this camera. So considering you're just buying a cheap compact, you're getting a really high megapixel rate on essentially a full frame sensor with a processor that's got the same speed as a high-end sporting camera. Now, this lens has only got a 4.2 times optical zoom, which might sound a little disappointing if you're looking at some of the other cameras that are available, but don't discredit it just yet. Though it's only a 4.2 times optical zoom, it's the equivalent of a 24 to 100mm lens. Now, lenses of that size are generally used for things like portraiture, street photography. You can use them for landscape or even for telephoto, so they actually end up being a really good all-rounder lens. Apart from that, it's also got a 1.8 to 2.8 aperture, which for those of you who don't know what aperture it is, it's basically the size of the front of the lens, so how much light is coming through, which means it's going to be great for low light, and it's also going to give you a really nice effect where your backgrounds are going to be quite a lot softer than your subject, which is great for things like portraiture because you really want to isolate your subject from the background. But we can take a look at the image quality and things like that in a second. Now, coming from a background where I use SLRs most of the time, I really enjoy the fact that this camera allows you to manually operate the camera as much as you could with a high-end DSLR. So you can set your shutter speed, your aperture, your ISO, color balance, everything on this camera in photo and in video, which is quite unique. Apart from that, you're also going to be able to shoot 1080p in your video, JPEGs, as well as RAW files. Now, for those of you who come from a bit of a photography background, who are kind of looking at compact cameras and aren't necessarily sure which way you want to go and you want to maintain that high image quality, the fact that this camera shoots RAW images, in my mind, puts it leagues ahead of the competition. The fact that I can take this out with me wherever I want, pretty much fit it in my pocket, it's absolutely tiny, and shoot RAW images on it makes it quite a useful camera, and I guess quite a workhorse. Apart from that, it's also got a pop-up flash and a swivel screen. Another thing that makes this camera stand out for me is the fact that the body is built so ergonomically. It's designed to be held, I guess, single-handedly. It's got switches and dials and wheels in all the correct places that allow for really quick camera use. So for those of you who are interested in shooting in manual modes, you'll be able to quickly correct your camera and quickly change the settings on your camera so that you don't miss, I guess, those precious moments that can often be missed by struggling through menus and things like that. Now, for those of you who are interested in shooting maybe vlogs, or perhaps you're just doing promotional content for a website or something like that and can't afford to get a camera crew in, this kind of setup allows you to do that quite easily. Now, as you can see here, the image quality is pretty decent. I've got a really bright source over here, and I'm still relatively clear. I've selected a tracking focus meter at the moment, so as I move forwards and backwards, the camera is going to be able to automatically track focus to me, which is great. It means you don't have to have somebody constantly focusing your camera for you. It can do it itself. And if you want to go and make this setup a little bit more mobile, all you've got to do is pick up one of these Joby Gorillapods. Now these things do a great job. I found that they're really good for, I guess, beginner shooters, because they allow you to pick up your camera and kind of manipulate the stand that it's on to do all sorts of cool, quirky things. So you can wrap it around trees or poles and basically set up a tripod pretty much wherever you go. Now, the one thing that I don't like too much about this setup is that you're unable to attach a microphone. So what you get is, I guess, a little bit more tinny audio quality, which if you're going to be shooting on your own isn't necessarily the end of the world, but if you want, I guess, cleaner, crisper sound quality, it means that you have to then go into an editing software and then correct it there, as opposed to being able to shoot correctly in your main videos. So for either photo enthusiasts or people who are looking to get a new camera or looking to get a new compact, I would say that this guy is the way to go. The G5X is an amazing camera. It's very fast, it's very accurate, great contrast, I guess, for what you're getting. The fact that it's got a full frame sensor and super low aperture is amazing. So yeah, anybody who's really interested in getting into either the manual side of photography but doesn't want an SLR, or maybe somebody who's going traveling and just wants something quick and easy, then this would be the way to go. It's my favorite camera at the moment in terms of compacts, and I think anybody who is looking for something a little bit interesting and that it's going to allow them to do some more creative work should be looking at this, should be looking a little more seriously at this camera, because they do a great job. I really love them, and if I was going to go and pick up a compact today, it would be the G5 for sure. Now, I've left a couple of links down the bottom if you want to check out a little bit more information about the G5 or the Gorillapods. But yeah, I guess that pretty much sums it up for today, guys. Thanks again for tuning in, and we will catch you next time. See you later. Alright guys, thanks again for tuning in. If you want to check out the 50mm versus 50mm review from last week, click the link on the left. Otherwise, if you have any questions or any comments, please leave them down below. Like to show some support, and as always guys, keep on chilling.